his hat on that I bought way back in 1989 from the Batman printer, the Tim Burton Batman movie, which unfortunately doesn't hold up as well as I would have liked to have. But then again, neither did I, so you have that. But welcome to the Pop Cult Online Power Hour. I'm your co-host, Rick Gordon, and with me is usually Bob Retail, but Bob is not available right now. He's answering the phone, but I've got a special guest on with us, and hey, it's Spider-Man. What are you doing here, Spidey?
Hey, Rick Gordon. I'm here to say happy 7th birthday to our buddy Aiden. And we hope that he had a great 7th birthday and full of Spider-Man presents.
I'm sure he did.
I need to go off, and I need to fight some spider crime. Doc Ock is still acting up after using my body for a long time. So I need to go and check that out.
You better stop him from marrying your Aunt May. Well, Spider-Man is going off. Spider-Man's got to go. And in the meantime, I had something here. Oh, boy. Oh, stack of goodies. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about collected comics editions. That is all types of comics that have been collected in various forms. When I say that, I mean, 4, 5, maybe 30 issues bound up in different ways. First, from off the top of my stack, which is a phrase I borrowed from my friend Derek Howard, I found this today. And what this is back in 1973, my best friend, whose name is Darrell Hughes, showed up at my door on a rainy night to tell me that he was moving away for good to some place in Mars, to my 10-year-old mind. And I was very sad, and he could tell. And he gave me this. It's an issue of Supergirl, not quite Superman, but you know what? She's in the Superman family, and I was in the comics, so that was good enough for me. It's issue number 6, and it's a story about street gangs and Supergirl. It's almost like a romance cover going on there. But, I've been a fan ever since in all of her incarnations. But, like collected comic books, trade, paperbacks, whatever you want to call them, I've got some samples here. Let me just tell you real quick what I have so Bob doesn't pull out the same thing. Well, actually, let's just, Bob, I'm sure you've got some Masterworks, maybe some,
well, I picked a couple of
some other hardcover books.
I picked a couple of interesting ones to start off with. I'm going to start off with this one. The Atomic Knights by John Broome and Murphy Anderson. One of the things that I like on collected editions is I do like to get them for, well, I do them in 2 different ways. One of my favorite ways is getting some of the older books that I didn't collect when they first came out, like the Atomic Knights, which were from the 50s. And so that's a way that I can read those stories. One of the only ways I can read those stories. I can buy this. This cost, well, the cover price is $40. Oh, and I love the fact that they're these knights in armor and they ride around in these giant mutant Dalmatians that a little bigger than your dog. They're trying to ride around at a big Dalmatian. That's probably why when my kids were little, my dog was 85 pounds, and I used to put them on his back and kind of ride them around when they were very small. But, I just had these visions of the Atomic Knights. But that's a great way to read and experience some of these older series, and older being a sliding scale depending on how old, the particular reader is. because it's usually much more economical to pick up the collected edition than to go out and buy all those individual comics.
Right.
Uh,
Right, and
you
some of
know,
them just be found nowadays either.
yeah, so that one, and then there's another one from the similar time frame. We've got the Viking Prince. This
Oh
one
yeah,
by Robert Conager, and this is Bob Haney and Bill Finger on art. In this
nice.
again, it's not the strict superhero genre stuff, because there was just such a wacky variety of things going on back then. I used to collect. The Masterworks were great too, because the Masterworks, I used to read those to my kids when they were small, and you could read those as bedtime stories, and they're full color reprints of all those old Marvel comics. And same thing with the DC archives. Any of that 60s stuff is perfect for kids.
Hmm.
It's not, you don't have any of the kind of somewhat, I don't know, I don't want to say, what's the right word? It's some of the stuff in today's comics is maybe a bit questionable on whether you want to be reading it as a bedtime story to a, 4 to 6 year old child. It's just, you don't want them to be waking up with a nightmare, or even just not under. You could read them a Grant Morrison comic, and they're not even gonna. I barely know what's going on in half the Grant Morrison comics. It's like, try reading that stuff to a little kid, it's not going to go over too well. But you can read these kind of stories in the first 50 issues of Avengers or Spider-Man or Iron Man, and those work great for kids.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to read a story where the Joker, cuts his own face off to a little kid, because the therapy bills alone will kill you.
Or even where the
One of the
Joker
books I picked
up
up.
and puts a bullet into Barbara Gordon, and puts her in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's not appropriate bedtime fare for the young ones.
One of the books I picked out is this. This is Batman 30s to the 70s. The reason I picked this book out was when I was a kid, I would see ads for this book in book clubs, like Sunday magazines. Get 12 books for $1, 25 or whatever it was. And this Superman from the 30s to the 70s was always the other one. And I remember just begging my mother, "Can I please get this book?" And she just wanted no part of it. So a long time to get it, probably the advent of the internet, until I actually found it. But I've got it. And the nice thing about this one, it's got an autograph in it from Carmine Infantino to Connor from Carmine. I got it in autographed in 2009, early before Carmine left us. But great book, and I do have the Superman companion piece also. Another book, before I go back to you, that was critical in my collecting. It was one of a series, and that Bring on the Bad Guys. Now, anybody that's watching the show should be familiar with this book and the other books in the series, Superhero Women, The Origins of Marvel Comics, and Sons of War. But to me, this is a true modern trade paperback, and you've got full color strips and just real nice prose pieces in between from Stan, giving a little background into what was happening, and you get a little more insight into the man Stan Lee. Great series, a lot of fun, and I still have this thing, and I'm just so happy. So I've got more, but I'm going to see what else you've got.
Well, I'm going to go to my second category of collected edition. So First I talked about, it's like I don't have the original, so I'm buying that collected edition so I can read some comics that I otherwise would not have been able to read. Now, the second one, it's kind of the pure collector in me. It's that I have these in at least one other format, but I love having the collected edition that I can, instead of having to go, and I can pull out most of these. I don't have all of the comics in this one, but I can pull them out and read those comics as a comic or from a bunch of other reprints. But this one is called Fantastic Firsts, and it's in a slipcase.
Oh,
this was something that was given out to retailers to, I think, thank them for supporting maybe the Marvel Masterworks series when it first came out. And it came with this bookmark. It says Fantastic Firsts on it. And it's got Fantastic Four #1, Ant-Man from Tales to Astonish 27, as well as 35, Hulk #1, the Submariner first Silver Age appearance from FF #4, as well as his FF Annual #1 appearance. We got Spider-Man and Amazing Fantasy 15, Thor, Journey into Mystery 83, Iron Man, Tales of Suspense 39, Sergeant Fury #1, Doctor Strange, Avengers, X-Men, Captain America from Avengers #4, as well as his first Tales of Suspense solo appearance. We got Daredevil, the first appearance of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Silver Surfer #1. Now this is, again, it's like Marvel Masterwork, but it's just, this is something that you get that is, we got the Man in the Anthill, which is kind of the precursor to that. You get something like this, and it's just, to me, I get it because, man, this is just cool. I look at it as this is something that I get to put on the shelf, and then I can pull it out and I can read through it whenever I want to. And that's kind of the second category of collected editions. I call them, they're like my bookcase books, where I can just, whenever I want to read through something, I'm going to pull that off a bookcase, and it's a little easier to go through than finding all the individual issues of the comics. Even though I have the original, in this case, these first, I have a couple of them. I have about half of the comics that are in here, but I don't have, I don't have Hulk #1. I don't have the first Thor. I don't have the first Iron Man from Tales of Suspense. I don't have the first Ant-Man. Things like that. But, it's a really nice book. This one's a little more difficult to find, but it's fun to track down, and it's a beautiful edition as well.
That's very nice. I would even go as far to say, because it's so similar, you could break it down into two categories of bookcase books. Now, when I built a library in the house, a built-in library, because I had so many books scattered all over the house. One section is strictly for comics, and the shelves are sized specifically for these books, which is a Marvel Essentials, which is soft cover, white on a newsprint. But you want to talk about ease. This is for reference, especially, this one, the Handbook of the Marvel Universe. I just want to, as my memory is faulting as I get older, just want to look something up real quick. I'll just grab this off the shelf, and they're pretty uniform in terms of the book jackets and the binding and everything. So it looks nice on the shelf. That's one way to do it. The other way, the real nice way, is to do this, which is what we call the omnibus. Now, this is a little beefier, hardcover, full color, remastered, if you will, and just absolutely gorgeous. Probably the best you can do Uh, they're great books. It's got a lot. It's a meaty book. There's a lot of stories in here, so it's good on the coffee table as well as the bookshelf. And a couple of these will really weigh it down. But I picked out this one, Howard the Duck, because I'm a huge Howard the Duck fan, and I've got all the standard, the Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, ad nauseum. But it to pick up something, and I've got everything. As far as Howard the Duck, I've got both of the series in regular format. I've got them digital. I've got any number, but this is probably my one of my favorite way to read. I don't read physically that often. I do a lot of digital, but yeah, I love omnibus, and I had forgotten about them until we talked about it last week, and all this week I've just been thumbing through. And a lot of times they leave they've got the covers, so it's nice to see. And a lot of times they leave the letter pages in there, so that's a real treat because it's fun to, especially with the older books from the '60s. It's fun to see all the professionals that started out writing letters, to Marvel and DC that wound up working in the business that they love so much. Unfortunately, I never got any of my letters published because they were just like the one I remember the most is like the Hulk. I think he's great. You guys are doing a great job. That's not knocking down any Marvel, but I was sincere about it. What else do you got?
Okay, I'm gonna go now. This is an extreme case for me. Um, Probably if we went through a list of very favorite stories, like way at the top of mine, if not at the number one, is near number one. Kingdom Come. Okay, now I have the original issues of Kingdom Come. This is the softcover trade paperback of Kingdom Come, the first edition. Then they came out with hardcover of Kingdom Come, and this particular hardcover actually did get autographed by Alex Ross and Mark Waid at a con.
Nice.
And I have I guess I had a copy of the little preview ad that came along with the book that even had Alex Ross's concept sketches that came out at some point along the way. I had that stuffed inside this one, inside the cover. Then, not to be undone, they came out with the slipcased edition of this bad boy that had 2 volumes in it. It had, another one of these, and that one came autographed by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. But then the neat part about this was it came with a second volume called Revelations that kind of goes through page. Oh, and I got this. This is signed by Alex Ross as well. I got that signed by him at a con. And this has not only the different concept sketches and things like that for the characters, but it kind of goes through, and at one point in here talks about like lots of the different page by page, like all the little Easter eggs and stuff that are hidden in Kingdom Come. Then,
oh, nice.
So that's this one. This is from Graffiti. This is back before DC was really doing their own deluxe editions. Then we have the Absolute Kingdom Come. So you've seen the Absolutes. These are giant, oversized things. A little different because the omnibus that Marvel puts out is nice. It's like a big, thick thing with a lot of issues, but it's still kind of like the standard size. This is the Absolutes from DC. These print the pages, and they're much larger, so you get a better view of the art on these. Now, this, on the Absolute Kingdom Come, this actually has the Revelations book included in it. So you get all the content that was in the 2-volume slipcase set in this single absolute. And DC did some really nice absolutes. I mean, I've got the Absolute Watchman. I've got more absolutes than I probably need, but at a certain point, they kind of ran out of things that were worth doing absolute editions of, and then they just started putting out, here's a story, we'll put it in absolute format, you know, because people will pay $100 for it. And then I kind of stopped at that point. There was some, well, I'll just say it wasn't stuff that I felt I needed to pay $100 for an absolute edition of. But you know, there are some modern works, you know, like Darwin Cook's New Frontier, Green Lantern Rebirth. One that I don't have that I would like to pick up at some point is the Sinestro Corps War, which I thought was an absolutely wonderful Green Lantern series. They did an absolute of that one that I don't have at this point. Planetary, I've got a couple of volumes of Absolute Planetary. Some good stuff, you know. And then I have the Absolute Dark Knight, right? The first one. Then they did an absolute of the Dark Knight, the second one that Miller did many years later. That was not
a big fan of that.
Near as good as the Dark Knight Returns. You know, it was just,
I actually revisited that, figuring, well, maybe I'll give it a second chance and try to read it again, and it was just, I don't know what it was. I just didn't like it. But in terms of absolutes, you're right, because, you know, this is a specific size, and we built my bookshelf not thinking they would do anything bigger than that. A couple of absolutes, Absolute Sandman before. It does not fit anywhere because these books are huge. So it's strictly a coffee table book for me, which is fine. But you don't want the kids reading in Doll's House while you're not looking.
And some of them, they're so big and unwieldy that, you know, they're beautiful, but they're really difficult to read in that format, right?
Right. I've got one other I want to bring up real quick, and I think this is different. This is Best of Archie, and I wouldn't call this a digest, but you can see it's fairly small, but it's it's packed with stories, and this it's the best stories of like 70 years, so you get a good look at how the character developed from the 40s all the way up until today. And the nice thing about this book, or a digest, you know, if you're going that way, is this fits in a backpack, fits in a briefcase. It's a great bathroom reader. You know, the stories are short. The stories are short. You know, there's no continuity problems you have to worry about. You can pretty much jump in wherever and get your Archie fix. And it's fun to see, you know, some of the older stories, you know, because I started reading Archie 60s, and I think I'd like to do an episode on that because Archie is the gateway book for a lot of people. Archie and Richie Rich, you know, because they're just everywhere. They're still on the stands today, where most comics are not. You can still go into a Walmart or a supermarket, pretty much anywhere, and pick up a digest or a double digest fairly easily. So, you know, there's that. But DC also has their version of this type of trade, the showcase, which I don't have in front of me. You've probably got some a little closer. So if you want to grab your favorite showcase and show it to us.
Which one do you want?
I will just vamp this one. Anyone you want, but I have a feeling you're going to grab Green Lantern. I just have a feeling. In the meantime, look kill a little time with Mexican Spider-Man. Young Pedro Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider, and he gained the proportionate strength ability to fight crime in Guadalajara or wherever. I don't know. This is actually just a knockoff that was made in Mexico. I don't know if there actually is a Mexican Spider-Man. I'm sure there is. It's just there's a.
Okay. So,
I'll get back real quick. Still creeped out by this guy.
Okay.
Six-armed Spider-Man.
I'm back.
And we're back.
This was the showcase I picked.
Oh, wow. Did not expect that.
Here's the thing. Showcases, like the Marvel Masterworks, which here's a Marvel Masterwork for Godzilla, that, again, they're black and white, right? For me, superhero comics, especially Green Lantern, I need to see those in color, you know? It's like Green Lantern, his whole shtick, especially in those old ones, is he's powerless against yellow. And seeing this in black and white just isn't the same for me, you know? It's like, hey, look at this big yellow thing. The criminal spray painted their car yellow, so you can't pick it up with your power ring, Green Lantern. No, I'm just going to have to believe you in this black and white reprint. But
I never thought of that.
On the showcases, I really skewed towards the war books and the mystery books and the, you know, so like the House of Mystery and the House of Secrets, Unknown Soldiers, Sergeant Rock, you know, War That Time Forgot, you know, all those non-superhero ones, those were the ones that I kind of went after when I was picking up the black and white ones. And similarly in Marvel, I wasn't as much into the, you know, Spider-Man and Captain America Masterworks, but I grabbed, you know, the Tomb of Dracula and Werewolf by Night and supernatural thrillers that had the Living Mummy and Son of Satan and a lot of those characters in it. Ghost, you know, because again, the horror books, particularly the Tomb of Dracula, when you look at that in black and white, you can see Gene Colan's work a lot crisper in that.
Yes.
And I like that kind of story in black and white a lot more. That, you know, it's like it gives it a flavor for me that I don't get with the superheroes. I kind of like to see those things in color. So
right. You're absolutely right. I know. Yeah, I noticed when I first started collecting the showcases and the essentials, what I was doing was I was collecting out of rote. So, you know, I got issue number 1, so of course I'd have to get issue number 2, 3, 4, and then when they started expanding and just throwing out the odd books, that's when it really kicked in with me, like, you know, this, the Marvel Universe. That's not, you know, that's perfect for this, you know? I don't need color. I can tell that, you know, I know what Thunder looks like. I just want to read about it. So yeah, getting the odd books, like Unknown Soldier was great, GI Combat, you know, all the war books, like you said, and Tomb of Dracula. That book should have never been published in color. I've seen Colan's pencils, and they were just amazing. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
So another one that I got, this is an interesting one, but this is a set from the complete Carl Barks library that Another Rainbow put out. And this was a slipcase, and it's got 3 hardcovers in it. And this reprints all of Carl Barks's Disney stuff. This is one of the Uncle Scrooge volumes. I think there's 6 hardcovers that are Uncle Scrooge. Now the thing about these is they're oversized and they are black and white, but it's almost like a precursor to the artist edition. You get to see You know, and I do like these in color, but when these guys actually came out, I mean, this was the way to get all these stories, and it's where I actually first read kind of the complete run of all the Karl Barks stuff. Was when I got these libraries, and I got these back in the late '80s, I think. I got them when they were first coming out. I was I kind of subscribed to them. This came out in 1989, so it's like the late '80s and early '90s that these came out. And similarly, they did a complete EC library at the time. Again, 3 volumes
Yes, I
per
remember
slip
that. Yeah.
and all black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Now today, Fantagraphics is putting out this stuff in color volumes that are normal comic book size. And they're wonderful, and they're also very affordably priced. I mean, I think they're like $30 a volume or something, and you can get cheaper than that on Amazon or discount in stock trades or other kinds of online services. And it's just absolutely fabulous work. They're doing the Karl Barks and the Don Rosa Duck stuff, and it's great. It's great. I'm buying those again just so I'll have them in color that way, because these are great, but they're all black and white. But I can look at them for different reasons. These, they're much larger. I can examine the art in them, and I don't really get that from just looking at
Right.
the other.
The website that link to all of these different sources of buying comics.
Sure. You come out to comicspectrum.com, and we've got a lot of links to places you can buy comics. I don't have a link to Amazon on there. I figure most people can find them in their sleep, but I've got lots of sources for back issue comics, and a lot of the other sources are also on my new comics page, because I have ways of buying new comics. If you want to buy new comics, mail order. I've got links to 5 or 6 different places that sell monthly subscription type of comics, new comics. And I kind of run down, some of the pertinence about the different ones. There are pluses and minuses to the different ones. Midtown Comics, Graham Cracker Comics, Mile High Comics, MyComicShop.com, Discount Comic Book Service. There's a whole bunch of them that sell comics, and I think they're great. I like, it's great to support your local comic shop. If I bought, 10 comics a month, I wouldn't bother with mail order. But since I get quite a few more than that, I like, the discount, and I don't have to worry about running a pull list. They just come to me in the mail, and they're all taken care of. So, we can talk about that another time as well. But there are lots of ways. Whether you're buying back issue comics, there's a whole set of things that you can look at when you're buying back issue comics. There's a whole different criteria when you're buying new comics in different places. It's like you have some great resources that you use for buying old comics that I just have never really experienced. With your estate sales that you go, I need to get you to write up a little section for me on estate sales, and looking at like the penny saver or other kind of want ads, and tips and tricks on that kind of stuff, because I have some sections on using eBay and other kinds of places for getting your hands on back issues, but I don't have experience with those mechanisms that you use. So it's always good to share that knowledge with people, so they can,
all right.
as long as you just say, okay, nobody in Waterville, New York may read this and compete with me for my hidden hoards of comics.
They know better.
Run them off the road with the motorcycle.
Yeah. I got it today from my EW, an upcoming artist edition, and I clicked on it and I was really impressed. I got it there. Now, technically, it's not really a collected edition, but I think it's an interesting product nonetheless. Do you have any examples you could show us? Because I think they're great. I think I have maybe looked at one or two in the past, but I think it's worth it to revisit. I can think of quite a few I'd like to get, and while Bob's looking that up, to like that Spider-Man. Now remember, just watch Spider-Man. The sound of my voice. I'm feeling very sleepy. Very sleepy. Your eyes are getting heavy. You can hardly lift your arms. And you're going to send me money so that I can buy Superman for 3.6 million. I guess it didn't work. Bob, did you buy that Superman that was on sale on eBay?
I did not have
Action
3 mil sitting around. I would have bought
Came
one.
for it again.
I would have bought one that's in about 4.5 condition for, I don't know, like $400,000 or whatever. I don't know how much a 4.0 would cost, but it wouldn't be anywhere near the 9.0 cost of those things.
Becca said I can only spend.
I've got one other interesting way to do collected editions, and that is the do-it-yourself collected edition. Now this.
Oh yeah.
This I like Doc Savage. This collected edition is the Marvel Comics Doc Savage. So I've got the issues of Marvel's Doc Savage in here, as well as, and this is the thing, it's like Dynamite now has the license. DC has actually done a thing with this, because the way Doc Savage works is Condé Nast, I think it's that, or Street and they might have owned the Street and Smith. Anyway, it was owned by a publishing house, so they licensed that character. And Marvel at one point published Doc Savage. Dark Horse has published Doc Savage. DC published Doc Savage. Now Dynamite has the license to Doc Savage and are publishing it. Well, when Marvel published it, there were 8 issues of the series. There was a giant size, but Doc Savage guest starred in Giant Size Amazing Spider-Man #3, and he guest starred in Marvel 2-in-1 #21. So
I recently read those.
The interesting thing is, and here's the Marvel 2-in-1 issue with Doc Savage.
Nice.
That I've got bound in here, and here is the Giant Size Amazing Spider-Man where he's in there. So when they reprint this, nobody can reprint those 2 issues, because Dynamite can't reprint the Thing and Doc Savage because they don't have the rights to print the Thing, and Marvel can't can't reprint that issue because they don't have the rights anymore to reprint Doc Savage. So that is an issue that just can go uncollected in something from the publisher. So I made my own. Here's all the Marvel comics that Doc Savage was in, and I have another volume of this that's, the DC Doc Savage books, and I've got another one that I made that's got the other, like Millennium and Dark Horse and some of those other ones. Another thing that you can do is
walk us through the process.
Okay, so there are various companies that do this, and I have to put together a page about this on Comic Spectrum. I haven't done it yet. It's on my to-do list for about the last year. I'll get around to it. More people who write in and say, "Hey, Bob, it would be nice if you did this." But there are various companies that do it. I used to use a company called Library Binding Company. They went out of business. But there's another company up in San Francisco, South San Francisco, California, called Herring and Herring and Robinson Bookbindery. And if anybody emails me, I can give you info on these guys, but they're on the internet too. But basically, you go on their website, you download the binding slip, you mail them the stuff. It costs them, you have a bunch of different choices. You can get that you can go really fancy on these things. I didn't go really fancy. I got some stamped, I got the spine stamped. You can get, like, they have dies where you can get like a Spider-Man symbol or a Superman, all different kind of dies. You can get something stamped on the cover. You can get laminated covers that have like a comic cover, kind of like laminated directly into this. You can do a whole bunch of different things. You can get optionally, you can have a ribbon bookmark put into your book. Whole different things. There are whole forums about this. But basically, the way I do it is, you assemble up the books that you want to have done. You can or not, at your choice, take out the ad pages. I will typically leave the ad pages in the comics because it's just kind of neat to see the old ad pages and stuff as you're reading them. There's minimal gutter loss if you get them done where they're not too terribly thick. You can read everything that's there. And they do a nice job of these things. Another thing you can do is pick just like, this is the Warlord. And I like, and it's just a funny thing, I like Mike Grell's Warlord. I love Mike Grell's Warlord. I'm actually working on a kind of mid-grade set that I want to get Mike Grell's Warlord bound also. But this is actually all the Ron Randall issues of Warlord. And I kind of picked up on Ron Randall because I used to read his Trekker creator-owned series, and then I have a bunch of commission sketches from him, and I probably have about 80 pages of Warlord original art by Ron Randall. And so I just have an affinity for that stuff. But I got his all the issues that Ron worked on. They're all bound in this one. So I brought this to him and showed it to him at San Diego Con, and he did a sketch inside the cover for me. So that's
nice. Very nice.
Warlord and Shakira. But you can do a whole bunch of different things with making your own collected editions. Another one that I personally like. Official Handbook of the Marvel Universe. Who's who in the DC universe? There's I think 25 issue series called the Marvel Saga. That's kind of like a retelling of Marvel. And you can find a lot of these books in dollar bins, or 50-cent bins even. I kind of collect up. I have bound everything that CrossGen ever put together. Right, and they're out of business. But I loved CrossGen when they were putting out their books. They did Ruse and Sojourn and Crux, Meridian, lots of the first, all kinds of great series. Well, there's not a whole lot of danger of nice hardcover collections of those ever coming out because that company got sold off to Marvel. Marvel, is not going to make a ton of money. And Marvel got sold off to Disney. It's like, well, maybe at some point if Disney makes a cartoon out of them or something, I don't know. But chances are you're not going to find collected editions of these things. So I got them all bound up, and I have hardcovers of, the entire run of that stuff. So that's kind of another thing. You just pick a theme, I also have a full set of Master of Kung Fu that I got bound because that's another one. It won't be reprinted because most of those issues of Master of Kung Fu, his father is Fu Manchu, right? And his sister is Fa Lo Sui, and you've got Sir Dennis Nayland Smith and Clive Reston and a lot of other characters that were in Sax Rohmer's Fu Manchu novels. And they actually paid licensing fees back in the day, and they used those characters under license. Well, they don't have that license anymore. which is why in current Marvel continuity they have respun Shang-Chi so that he is now the son of the Yellow Claw, who is a Marvel character,
Huh.
right?
The
And is
Golden Age.
not
Yeah. Hmm.
Fu Manchu. And, so they've kind of just, okay, whatever, but they're not going to reprint those. They can't, unless they want to pay licensing fees. So, again, I like to look for things to get custom bound that I don't think will be available in kind of the format that I want them in from the company. I'm not going to see an absolute edition of Master of Kung Fu, I don't think. Well, maybe I will at some point, but I can pay, and it's not like it's really cheap. I mean, you got to buy the comics, or I mean, I don't tend to bind my only set. I'll buy a parallel set, on the cheap, and then
Right.
I'll get them bound. So I've got each issue in there, and I pay between 50 cents and $1 for each of those issues. It ends up being about $20 to get the binding done, and then you got postage back and forth. So
That's not bad at all.
if you get 2 or 3 volumes done at a time, you can kind of combine the postage on it. You send a media mail or whatnot, or you could, if you get one of those flat rate boxes from the post office, a lot of times that's even cheaper.
Yep.
For like $10, you can fit, whatever in there and just send that off. But it ends up being about, let's say, about $30 a volume to, bind these things, which isn't bad. I mean, it's about what you'd pay, for a hardcover. Kind of just a fun.
Yeah, that's the price of it. So what would be a good number of books that you would bind without it becoming too unwieldy or unreadable?
I have gone on. I've widely varied. This is the Doc Savage one I held up here is probably one of my thinner ones, and this only has 12 comic books in it. So it's fairly thin. But I have done 25.
Oh, okay.
I think in one case I did like 28 because it was just like I didn't want to break up, some of the cross-gen ones, and I didn't want to do 3 volumes, so I just did 2, like one of them had, and I also try to break the volume at kind of like the end of a story arc, so it's fairly complete within the volume. But you can do anywhere from 10, 12 issues upwards, 20, 25 issues, and it's not really that big of a problem because, you look at the omnibus that you get, and that's got, like 30 issues or so in it, right? So you end up having similar.
This would be I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier, but as we all know, I'm a sucker for romance books. And as far as this is one of the few collected books out there. There's only been a handful, and as you can see, really not that much to it. Like you said, I don't imagine, a Love Stories omnibus or Absolute Edition coming out anytime soon. So, and you can pick these books up fairly cheap if you know where to look. So that would be a perfect option for me, is to just take a handful of issues that I really enjoy and just bind them. And just that's a great idea. And why I think of that?
Yeah, and
That's
you
one
can
of the
do
best,
like a
Bob.
best of, right? It doesn't have to be every single issue. If you can bind, that's the beauty of when you do it yourself, you can make whatever kind of theme that you want. I did very rudimentary binding when I was first doing it, and then I got a little more, as I got into it, I started saying, you know what, because, they're just binding paper, so it occurred to me that I could make a table of contents as a Word document, just print the pages out, and stick them in the front of, just send them in at the front of the comic books and say, you know what, bind this table of contents in there. So it's like,
that's a cool idea.
The first, 90% of books that I got done don't have that. But now when I send something off, I'll put the table of contents together. I got all of Jim Balance Catwoman books bound.
Mm-hmm.
So he did that series for 80 some odd issues, and he did some one shots and some other things. So I got all of those bound, and I ended up. Say that again, Rick?
Yeah, because I can totally picture myself doing like a romance collection, maybe just focusing on a particular read, just Gene Colan, or Jim Steranko, who did quite a bit of romance, as you can tell by this back cover, or my favorite duo of John Romita and John Buscema. The possibilities are endless, and you are the.
Because you can take those books and you can dice them and slice them, right? So you could actually take a bunch of those romance books that have, John Romita, John Buscema, Gene Colan kind of stories, right? And you can make a volume that's, here's my John Buscema volume. It's like you can take, a best of Gene Colan, and it's got your favorite Tomb of Dracula stories, and it's got, some romance stories in it. And, you can make your own custom, however you want it to be, kind of hardcover collection. It's very cool, do that kind of stuff. If you do it with an artist or writer that's still around,
even better. Yeah,
it's even better because when they see it, I've got another one I want to show you. This one you'll like.
I take a Spider-Man selfie. Or is it more like this? This is the Spider-Man 3 movie. It's digital, and I don't know what pictures are on here. I'll have to do a USB drive. I could probably plug it in and see.
Okay, I'm back.
Available at most places.
Okay, check this one out.
Okay, it's a little hard to read.
That says Amazing Spider-Man by Conway, Ween, and Andrew. This is issues 137 to 160 of The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I talked about how you can get the logo stamped on the cover, so this one I actually got the logo stamped.
That is so cool. That is awesome.
Have Len Wein and Jerry Conway have autographed this one. Unfortunately, Ross Andrews no longer with us, but these guys, they were at a con that I went to, and I got them both to sign it.
Great.
This one, I might have told you the story before of how when I was a kid, I got the brilliant idea of three-hole punching my comics and keeping them in a three-ring binder. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, but it sounds like a good story. Talk about collected comics.
If you look in the center of this thing here, you'll see the three-hole punch.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
Finger.
Nice.
So I had a big run of Spider-Man because he was my favorite. And I don't know why I started at 137. I guess my early Spider-Mans, well, I told you about the paper doll thing where I had cut some of those up.
Yeah, because we both did the same thing, yeah.
So I had this long run of Spider-Man that I had three-hole punched, and I had put them into a three-ring binder. So those are toast, right? They're good condition. I mean, it's like they were otherwise very nice books. But I had rebought all those comics for my collection. So those were extras that I had. And it occurred to me, well, hey, those three-hole punches, they're just going to be in the gutter. They're not going to affect the book. So then I sent those all off, and I got them all bound. And,
nice.
I got myself a nice Spider-Man, classic Spider-Man hardcover by these guys,
That's
and then just getting the autograph, that's the other thing. When you show this to Len Wein, and he's looking at it, and he's like, wow, it's like those guys are tickled when they see the collected edition that's got their work on,
that's amazing. I really like that idea.
When I was
Have you
telling
ever?
that Jim Ballant story, I guess when I brought that to him to get signed at San Diego last year,
Mhm.
when he saw it, he was sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. He was so delighted. He also did bless me. Oh. He did a sketch of Catwoman in it, and then he took a picture with it, and he actually published that picture of him holding these collected bound volumes in his tarot comic book.
Nice.
In the San Diego photos that he put out, a couple issues later.
Awesome. Awesome.
These guys love seeing a fan that does something like that, especially when it's a creator-oriented, project.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, it makes it. I mean, collecting is so intrinsically personal as it is. Uh, this just takes it up another level, and then you're the editor. You are creating content exactly the way you want it. I mean, I love the idea that you had of just chopping a book up and just putting it together the way you want. Maybe I just want every picture that Steve Ditko drew of the Hulk, and I could I'll find it and I'll bind it up and boom, it's there and it's nowhere else. And then I'll hunt him down and have him sign it.
There you go. Well, on my Master of Kung Fu book, I kind of did that as well because after the Master of Kung Fu series ended, he did remember Marvel Comics Presents?
Yes.
They had the 3 or 4 stories in an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first 8 issues I think had a Master of Kung Fu story in it. So
Mm-hmm.
I got those, and I didn't put the whole issue. I just took the Master of Kung Fu story out of each
wow.
one.
Yeah.
And put that in the volume of Master of Kung Fu. And same thing, when Master of Kung Fu guest stars in Marvel Team Up or in Marvel 2-in-1 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I take that issue and I kind of stick it in around the right place, not in the middle of a story arc or something, but kind of where it would fit chronologically.
Right. Very interesting. Wow, that's very eye-opening. I'm glad we were able to do this. Do you think have we covered pretty much all the collected editions that are out there? Is there anything else we might have missed?
Let's see. I mean, you got trade paperbacks, which are again they're a great low-cost alternative. We talked about the Masterworks and Essentials, which are great also because you get a lot of comics really cheap, but they are black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Then you step up. You got your Masterworks and your archives. DC does things like these series. DC's now also doing ones that are creator oriented. So they'll do like a Jim Aparo Batman or a Neil Adams Batman or Len Wein's Batman or something like that. So they're doing some interesting packaging choices on the collected editions as well. You got your regular stuff that nowadays a lot of people just like to read in trade paperbacks. So they'll just get the ones that are just standard that are current things. It's just each story arc is going to be a trade paperback.
Right.
But you make your choice. You got your hard covers and your soft covers. You got your kind of ultra uber collector type of ones that are your slipcase absolutes and other kinds of things like that. Another thing that I will say I like to do is when I go for autographs at the con, more so than getting an autograph on the individual comic, I like to bring a collected edition by that creator, or like I showed you with my Spider-Man one, my custom bound one. But even just a regular one, I will often bring a collected edition, and that's what I bring to the con to have the creator autograph.
That's a great idea.
I'll have them sign the inside. And a lot of them, when they do that, if it's an artist, they'll just do a little head sketch, or they'll do something. Some of them are just like they scribble their name in and be gone. I've got a big line. But a lot of them will do some cool little remarking in. I brought there's a series called Mind Management that Matt Kint does for Dark Horse, and I brought him the Mind Management volume to get signed, and he whips out a cigarette lighter, and he's like, "Hey, did you notice that if you look at these 2 pages, you can this goes like that," and he like burns the corner off of one of the pages, and it's like it reveals this thing, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. And I got and then he signed it, personally burned by Matt Kent. It's like that's the first time that happened. It was on the floor of the San Diego con. I was waiting for some, smoke alarm to go off, and all of a sudden we got Chuck Rosansky having a heart attack because all his stock is getting wet from the overhead sprinklers or something.
Oh my God, that's great. So what I'm going to recommend to some of our newer collectors, people that really haven't gotten into it, you can start off slow. You can pick up essentials and showcases fairly cheaply on the secondary market, eBay, Amazon. I generally pay, $5 for a book this size, which, there's just quite a bit of reading in there. And once you've established a certain comfort level, and depending on what type of collector you are, you can work your way up from there. Or you can just get them all, because, some collectors are like that, aren't they?
Yes, but I will say, I have very rarely, if ever, paid full retail price for a collected edition. I find the concept of paying full retail price for a collected edition really hard to swallow, because there are so many ways to get them for less than full cover price, even on the first run market. I mean, there's the secondary market, which is great, but certain things come out, even if they're collectible, you can pre-order them, you can do Amazon, there's lots of different ways. Let me plug one thing that's coming out that is super, super cool. And it is the Marvel 75th Anniversary Edition of for Marvel Masterworks. And what it's got in it, it's a slipcase that looks like Avengers Mansion on the outside.
What? Wow.
And inside, it has got, I mean, I don't have one to hold up because it doesn't come out for about another 3 weeks. But it's got the slipcase. It's a hard box slipcase that opens up. It looks like Avengers Mansion. And when you open it up, inside there are 11 Marvel Masterworks inside. And the spines of all of them go together to make an image of all the, different Marvel characters, kind of like all flying around or whatever. And it comes with an Alex Ross poster in there that's autographed by Stan Lee.
Wow.
So, the downside is it's $500, but it's $400.
How is that a downside?
So, if you think about it, okay, $400 is a lot of money, but you got, so it's the first volume of Spider-Man, the first volume of Hulk, Iron Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Daredevil. It's all the first volumes of all the different Marvel characters. And then the special 11th volume is Not Brand X. Big thick one. It's got the whole one of Not Brand X. Okay? So, if you go to buy a Marvel Masterwork, I think that they retail at this point for about $65. Okay,
Right. Correct.
so
So just check.
you can buy them discounted. Let's say you got them for half off of $65. That's $32.50. Let's call it $35. So
Mm-hmm.
10 volumes is 350. That 11th one, that'll bring you to 385. And then you throw in this super cool slipcase that if they just sold the slipcase by itself for 40 or 50 bucks, I would buy it. And an autographed poster by Stan Lee. It's really not a bad deal to pay $400 for that package that they're putting together for Marvel's 75th anniversary. And I just saw an article about it online the other day, and I was like, man, if I didn't have all those volumes, and then I'm almost like, even though I have all those volumes, I might get that. It looks so cool. I'll put a picture of it up on the Comic Spectrum Facebook page over the next day or so. Maybe I'll do some kind of blog about it or something too. But it's just it's so cool, what they've put together for this thing, that it's mind-blowingly cool, if you're a Marvel fan for this thing. And again, it's a lot of money, but I think I don't mind things that are a little pricey if they're going out of their way to give you value for that money.
Right.
And I think this one, they put together a package that's fairly worth it. Now, I think it's got a 1,000-copy run.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's going to be zillions of them out there. So if you want to get one, you kind of need to, look into it. Yeah, I mean,
you can only do it once. How many times is Marvel going to have a 75th anniversary? Once.
And I could be wrong, but I mean, it's just like if there's at least 1,000 Marvel fans out there that are willing to drop, a chunk of change on this thing, there probably are. So, I mean, maybe not. Maybe there's going to be some that are getting remaindered for $200 bucks or something.
I doubt it.
Roll the dice, It's just like it's the kind of thing where, sometimes they say, wow, that's a super cool collectible. I better get it while I can. And then a year later, you see it on some sale, and it's like way cheaper than what you paid for it. And it's like, oh! In hindsight, if only I would have known.
Wow, cool. I think that'll do it for this episode. I learned a lot, and if hopefully everybody that watches this will get more out of it. Also, this is a big part of what we do. Is try to educate people, and I cannot wait to start putting together my secret project. If you haven't been listening, you'll see. And that'll do it for this week. Bob, get your last plug in before we take off.
Look at the label down there.
Perfect. You did it. Look at that.
Go there. It's been staring you in the face for the last hour. Check out comicspectrum.com. If you have any questions, just feel free to email me. I mean, I get questions from, I get a couple of questions a week from people. If I get really popular and I start getting 100 questions a week, I might not be able to answer them all, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Oh, and are we going to do a show next week? I might have a special announcement for next Tuesday.
Oh, I think I know what it is, but I can't wait. What about you, Spidey? Look, he's so excited. He can't wait.
Woo, Spider-Man.
All right, kids, that's it. It's actually a walkie-talkie. There's a little hole there in his chest that you can't see. But that's it for this show. We will see you next week. Hopefully Sunday. I can't guarantee it, but we're getting better at putting these out on a regular basis. I actually look forward to talking to my pal every week, and we talk during the week too. But it's always good to see Bob, and thanks for joining us. And we will see you soon. The Pop Cult, join us.